Sometimes, miracles come from the most unexpected places. Imagine being hungry, exhausted, and homeless, yet finding yourself in a moment that tests your humanity. Would you help a stranger without expecting anything in return? This is the story of a homeless man who lost everything, even hope. But one simple act of kindness led to an unexpected twist that changed his life forever. What did the elderly woman find in her bag? And why was he dragged back to the store the next day? The events that follow will take a shocking turn you won't see coming. Watch the story till the end. And don't forget to support us by subscribing to the channel and turning on the notification bell for more amazing stories. Now, let's dive in. Thomas had always been a simple man. He had a loving wife, a steady job at the local factory, and a small but cozy home. Then the hurricane hit. Thomas lost everything. His wife, his home, his livelihood, all gone. He found himself living on the streets. Days turned into weeks, then months. Hope flickered and threatened to fade. The faces of the townspeople now seemed to hold pity or indifference. He felt invisible, a ghost haunting the ruins of his past. As he sat there, lost in his thoughts, he noticed an elderly woman struggling with her grocery bags. Her frail frame seemed almost overwhelmed by the weight of her burden. Without hesitation, Thomas rose to his feet and approached her. "Can I help you with those, ma'am?" he asked, his voice rough from disuse. The woman looked up, startled at first, then her face softened into a grateful smile. "Oh, thank you, young man," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "That's very kind of you." Thomas took the bags from her, and together they walked slowly towards her car. As they walked, the woman, whose name was Mrs. Henderson, chatted about her day, her grandchildren, the rising price of milk. Thomas listened patiently, nodding occasionally, offering a kind word or a gentle smile. For a brief moment, as he helped Mrs. Henderson load her groceries into her car, Thomas felt a flicker of his old self return. The act of kindness, small though it may have seemed, filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in months. The next morning, Thomas was awakened by a tap on his shoulder. He opened his eyes to find himself surrounded by three men in matching blue shirts, the grocery store's logo emblazoned on their chests. His heart sank. He knew this wasn't going to be good. "Are you Thomas?" one of the men asked, his tone gruff. Thomas swallowed nervously. "Yes," he replied. "Come with us," the man said. "Mr. Jones wants to see you." Fear gnawed at Thomas's insides as he was led through the bustling aisles of the grocery store. He had heard stories about shoplifters being caught, about trespassers being dealt with harshly. He braced himself for the worst. They reached the manager's office, and Thomas was ushered inside. Behind a large oak desk sat a stern-looking man with thinning gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses perched precariously on his nose. "Thomas," the man said, his voice surprisingly gentle, "I'm Mr. Jones, the store manager. We found something of yours." He gestured to a small velvet pouch lying on his desk. Thomas frowned, confused. He hadn't owned anything of value in months. He cautiously approached the desk and reached for the pouch. As his fingers brushed against the soft fabric, a jolt of recognition shot through him. It was his wife's locket, the one he had given her on their 10th anniversary. He fumbled to open the locket, his hands trembling. Inside, nestled against a faded piece of velvet, was a picture of his wife, her eyes sparkling with love and laughter. Tears welled up in Thomas's eyes. blurring the image of the woman he had loved and lost. "How? Where did you find this?" Thomas stammered, his voice thick with emotion. Mr. Jones explained that they had reviewed the security footage from the previous evening and had seen Thomas helping Mrs. Henderson. The locket must have fallen out of his pocket while he was carrying her groceries. Mrs. Henderson came in this morning, quite distraught. She was worried sick about you, said you were an angel sent to help her. She wants to help you get back on your feet. Mrs. Henderson insisted on paying for a few nights at the local motel. She asked Mr. Jones to offer Thomas a job at the grocery store. Overwhelmed with emotion, Thomas could only nod, tears streaming down his face. The kindness of this stranger had given him a glimmer of hope.